Suicide, seen by many of us as a tragedy of unmentionable proportions. For some people, seems like a good option. Why is that? And what can we do to try and help somebody that's struggling with the thought that suicide might be the answer to their problems?
Welcome to Shattered the podcast.
Sharing the lived experience of mental illness on
A father,
A mother.
A family.
Let's go.
Let's go.
Let's go!
Let's go.
So the message today is a weird one for me. I am not the cheerleading type. I am not the sort to stand on the sidelines and rah people along. I more prefer to come up alongside somebody and just encourage them quietly. I don't like to stand there and say everything that you're doing is golden. I like to look at a person and the individual things that they're doing that make them stand out. This is my attitude towards mental illness. I am never going to look at a person with a mental illness and go, mate, everything's going to be great. Life is worth living. Because in that moment, in that time, they probably can't even see that. My exhortation, if I am on the side of the field cheering somebody on, is just to get them to keep going. Getting them to choose to not stop. It's an interesting thing because when you're so bogged down by mental illness, suicidal ideation, struggling with your symptoms, you'll do anything to make it stop. Anything at all. And it's in that mindset that suicide seems like a really, really good option. And I've said it before, it's not that people in that place necessarily want to die. They don't want to imagine themselves buried in the ground or cremated. They just want the pain to stop. How do we get a person who is in that mindset? What do you do if you are in that mindset? First step is just to be patient. Sounds ridiculous. But tomorrow or the next day or the day after, it's going to be better. It's the weirdest thing. Your mind will take you to the worst places that you can possibly imagine. And you can not even contemplate that there's something outside of your pain. Whenever I get sick, whenever I get the flu or something, I always get to a point when I've had it for a few days where I can't ever remember feeling well. And it strikes me that this is my life at the moment. I am so sick that this is how I'm going to be with this virus, with this flu, with this whatever it is. It's a weird thing that my mind does. I don't know if other people do it. I don't know if you do it. But in my head, it's like I can't ever remember a time being healthy. I'm always going to feel this sick. And you know, the old adage is that health is wasted on the young. And I kind of agree with that because when you're so consumed with life, you don't notice when things are going good. I mean, that's just a standard thing. For me, it's a matter of just I'm living life. I'm doing it the best and the hardest that I can. I don't stop and evaluate and say, hang on, what have I got now? What is good? What is great about my life? That was, of course, before mental illness. Post mental illness, it's something that I have to do often. I need to remind myself that my good days far outweigh my bad days. I need to keep reminding myself that I have hope. I have things that I can look forward to. Even as I say that, in my mind, just to give you an idea, my mind is already going, you said the H word, don't be ridiculous. There's nothing to be hopeful about. Your life is a failure. That's what my mind is doing to me at the moment. So what do I do? to get through this? Well, I put that voice to the back of my head, and when I can, I challenge it. My mind is telling me to stop this podcast right now. Seriously, it's saying, what are you doing this for? This is a waste of time. But the other side of me, the side that the hopes that there's going to be a better tomorrow, is like, no, I'm doing this for a purpose. Hopefully it will help one person. And if that person is me, and this is the price I have to pay to remind myself that my life isn't doomed, then that's okay. It's that struggle, that constant fighting that wears people down. In the First World War, I'm always struck by the fact that even the bravest of the brave, men that received Victoria Crosses, they were adulated, their fellow soldiers called them the bravest of the brave. After a while, they got to at least a point one time. Case in point is Albert Jacka, Mad Harry, a couple of guys that were known throughout the Australian Imperial Force, the AIF, as the bravest of the brave. Both of them had breakdowns. And these were men that were models of inspiration for the men around them. And to know that these men had times where their minds broke, where they couldn't fight, they couldn't go into battle. Thankfully, they were able to get the help that they needed and were able to return to the fight. We seem to think that bravery is the absence of fear and self-doubt, and that's not the case. True bravery, true courage comes when there is no hope. When what you're doing is the last desperate gamble of somebody who has no hope that they're going to make it through the next little bit. And if they do, they're grateful for every moment. So for the person that is struggling, the person that is finding it hard at the moment, you need to know that you're not alone. I know, and there are many other people out there that know for an absolute fact what it is to live with doubt and fear and anxiety, crushing symptoms that smash you to pieces every single day. And you're wondering, you're just hanging on by your fingertips and you're like, well, what is it? What is it that's going to help me get through this? It's bizarre, but patience is the first thing. Your mind will not keep attacking you. Do the things that you need to do. Be mindful. Do your exercise. Take your pills. Endure. And then when things are good, try and recognize it. I do this by asking my wife to tell me when things are good. Hey, tell me when you see me and you're like, man, he's happy. Just tell me so that I can acknowledge it as well. The saddest thing about my friend's suicide, my mate Daniel, is that whatever his circumstance was, whatever was going wrong in his life was not his destiny. It was not going to be the rest of his life. He needed to know that, yes, his circumstance might have been hard, but it wasn't the end. He had moved away, far away, to be with a girl, and it had all fallen apart. For some reason, he felt like he had no other option but to end his life. When he had a town full of people that loved him, he had a family that were desperate to spend more time with him. If somebody could have come to him in that moment and said, okay, mate, things might seem desperate right now. Just wait. Just endure. Have the courage to say, today sucks, but maybe, just maybe, tomorrow might be better. I think about what would have happened if he had called me and said, mate, I'm about to chuck it all in. I've had enough. I can't do it anymore. Could I have said anything? Would I have said anything? Would have mattered? I don't know, but I would have liked to have had the opportunity to try. Just the simple fact that he did. He fell off my radar. He moved to another city, seemed to be doing well. But if he had have known that I'd have done anything for him, you know, if he felt like he had nowhere to stay, even though my house was tiny, filled with children and family, I would have just said, get to my house. You've got a place to stay. Just come. Just get out of that situation and come home. Come. This is the tragedy of suicide. And if somebody's contemplating suicide, and I know that there are people listening to this that are, the tragedy that you can't see is that the people that you leave behind are never going to get over your death. They can't. There's too many unanswered questions. It's too much guilt and shame. If you lose somebody to disease or an accident, you can say, you know, these things happen. It's never good. But you can look at it and say, okay, I can understand. But when there's somebody that you love that chooses to take their own life, you'd never get past it. The pain is as deep today as it was the day I found out, whatever it was, 3-4 years ago, that my mate had killed himself. Those questions keep coming back. A person may feel like they have nothing and no one, but I don't believe that's the case. I don't believe that there's anybody out there that has no one. There are people, maybe you've burned bridges. Maybe you've made it hard for people to love you. And at your worst times, it's impossible to ask for help. I get that. But what is possible is just saying, you know what, I'm not going to stop. Even if it's for no other reason than it's just your sense of grit, determination, it's your desire to hit back the suicidal thoughts. I'll teach you a lesson. I'm going to stay another day. You will not beat me. I gave up, tried to take my own life. So incredibly grateful that it didn't work. But it was touch and go. And now I went from a place of absolute hopelessness and desperation to speaking to thousands of people every week about reasons to live and to try and talk about what this thing called mental illness is, the impact that it has, and the possibility that life can go on post mental illness. I hate doing it, but you can always subscribe, like, and share. I hate asking. Hey, have a great week. Thank you for listening today. I will speak to you again. Thank you for listening to Shattered, the podcast. I'd like to thank our producer, Meredith Brosnan, our executive producer, Torian Lau, and the band Adelaide for allowing us to use their song as our theme. Go to shatteredthepodcast.com for more information.